Good morning. Today we are on our science lesson. We shall continue looking into excretory system. We had said excretory system comprises of two very important organs. The first organ we had named as the skin. The second organ we had also mentioned the lungs. And the third organ also that is among the excretory organ is the kidney. Before we come and look in details about the skin, there are some few information worthy mentioning when we are dealing with the excretory system. One, we had defined excretion is defined as the removal of waste product from the body. Excretion is the removal of waste product from the body. We shall see what are these waste products that are removed from the body. We also went ahead and defined some of the processes that assist in this excretion. We had said waste products are released during the process called respiration. Some waste products are removed from our bodies during a process called respiration. We went further ahead to define what is this respiration. We said that respiration is the chemical breakdown of food with the help of oxygen to release energy, carbon dioxide, and water. So we said yes, respiration is there. But for this respiration to take place, it has to get the assistance of oxygen. So this chemical process involves the use of oxygen to release energy, carbon dioxide, and water. Now, we said, what are these waste products that are removed by excretory organs? We mentioned what is removed from the body by the excretory organs are 1, excess water, 2, excess salt. The body will only take water that is necessary and in correct amount in our body. But any excess water then has to be left out. So when excess water is left out, is removed out, we say yes, whatever is remaining is enough for the use of the body. Then we also talked of excess salt. Some amount of salt is important in our body, but excess salt is removed because if we have too much salt, then it can become poisonous to our body. So it has to be removed. And we have organs that are well equipped in removing this excess salt. We also said the third waste product that is removed from our body is urea. Urea, this is nitrogenous salt. So urea is another product that is not required from the body, therefore it is removed from our body, urea or nitrogenous salt. Also, the fourth waste product that is removed from our body is carbon dioxide. We know that the air we breathe in contains carbon dioxide, but there is a number of oxygen. There is a percentage of oxygen that is removed from the air we breathe in, and when this amount of oxygen does what we call assists in the energy production, water and so forth, carbon dioxide is released as a byproduct of that process called respiration. Then we said another byproduct is lactic acid. It is also removed from our body as a byproduct. What we have said so far, we had mentioned this earlier in our lesson when we had just started this lesson on excretory system. We are saying whenever we talk of sweat, because you can find that if you look at your skin, you find it is perspiring. We call it perspiration. When you are sweating, what do you sweat? What do we term as sweat? Sweat is composed of 1, water, salt, urea, and lactic acid. So if you want to observe and to know what sweat is composed of, then you will find that these components, these substances, will be present in the sweat. We are saying sweat has water, which is excess water, it has salt, it has urea, and it has lactic acid. That is what we term as sweat. What about urine? Urine is a waste product that is moved from our body by excretory organs. What is urine? Urine is composed of water, urea, and salt. So water, urea, and salt, they form what we call urine. We shall mention some of the organs. We have mentioned 3 organs, and we have said these 3 organs are responsible for excretion, for excretory purposes, processes in our body. We had mentioned these organs being the skin, the kidney, and the lungs. Maybe if we start with the skin, we say it is one of the excretory organ, the skin. Then we say, what is removed? What role, what functions does the skin play in the removal of these waste products? Well, waste products that are removed by our skins are 1, excess water, 2, salt, and 3, we have urea and lactic acid. Those are removed by our skin. Our skin is equipped in such a way that it does these functions. And second, from the skin we have the kidney. We shall have later on a diagram of how a kidney looks like, and we shall be able to understand the process that kidney does. What the kidney removes is excess water, urea, and salt. That's what the kidney does by removing excess water, salt, and urea from our bloodstream. Then lastly, we have lungs as a third excretory organ. What does lungs do? We are saying lungs, it removes carbon dioxide. What happens? The lungs receives blood that contains the lungs is well supplied with alveoli, with the blood capillaries. These blood capillaries, they diffuse out carbon dioxide while they diffuse in oxygen. They are able to absorb oxygen in the bloodstream by use of the blood capillaries, and they diffuse out carbon dioxide. So when carbon dioxide diffuses out in the lungs, then the carbon dioxide will find itself in the bronchioles, from the bronchioles to the bronchus, from bronchus to the trachea, and lastly the nasal cavity and nose, and that carbon dioxide will be released through the nose and so forth. Today, we shall try to observe the skin. This is slightly the structure of the skin. We shall later on see the functions of the skin. But as we see, we are seeing that the skin has some 2 distinct parts here. We are seeing it has what we call epidermis, being the first layer of the skin, the epidermis, and we have the dermis. Furthermore, when we look about the dermis, the uppermost layer is called the conical layer. This first layer is called the conical layer. The conical layer contains dead cells, and it is a bit large on the soles and palms. What we are seeing is the dead cells, and they protect the inner organs, as we are going to see. So the first layer, when we are talking about the epidermis, we say the first layer is the conical layer. Then from the conical layer, we come to the second layer called granular layer. just among the epidermis. So we have the granular layer, then from the granular layer, we have the malpighian layer. We have shown where malpighian layer is found, and we find that a lot of nerve endings are attached on the malpighian layer. So when you look at the same skin, we have some senses, like this one is a nerve. It is able to tell the pressure. If the pressure is high, it assists through the skin, you will be able to know that the pressure is high. Is the heat there? Then these senses are there to assist. Then apart from that, we have the hair. Depending on what is happening, if it's cold, the hair through the muscle, it can stand and lie. It controls the temperatures. We have the subcutaneous gland, as we have shown this, the subcutaneous gland. It is able to produce fat, and we know what fat can do. Then we have the sweat gland. Sweat gland releases sweat to the atmosphere, to the outside, to the atmosphere from the skin. So this is the pore. At the opening from the skin here, we have the pore, and the pore, what happens, the sweat pore, the excess water gets itself out through the pore. Then we have just indicated in tiny that the skin has the veins and it has the artery. The vein is a bit larger and the artery is small and thick. We shall later on study these veins and artery in depth when we shall be dealing with the circulatory system. Circulatory system, we shall be able to understand how the vein works, how the artery is, and how the vein works, and we should also see an organ called the heart, what the heart does to the vein and to the artery. So we have seen this is just a simple structure of a skin, and we have seen that the skin has got an important role to play as far as waste products are concerned. So it is there to ensure that excess water is removed out, excess salt is removed out, urea is removed out, and even lactic acid is removed out. So we can say, what is the skin? We are defining the skin as the outer covering, or it is the outer covering that protects the body tissues. And the organs consist of two major layers. We have mentioned that we have the epidermis and the dermis. And when we were dealing with the epidermis, we had said that with the epidermis, it is the outer layer that of the skin. It is tough on the palm, on the hands. And the palm, what we are seeing here, this is epidermis. We are seeing epidermis, and we are seeing this first layer, it is tough. It is tough on the palm and the feet. And we are saying it has got openings called sweat pore. The sweat pore that we have tried to indicate here just got opening called the sweat pores, and the sweat pores are found on the surface of the skin. We are saying the dermis is made up of three layers, namely the conical layer, the granular layer, and the malpighian layer. We have said the first part is the conical layer, then we have taken of the granular layer and the malpighian layer being, and the malpighian layer, yes, being the last one. There are three layers. And we have said this way concerning the conical layer. It is the outermost layer. It contains dead cells and protects the inner layers of the skin. So the first part, it contains the dead cells, but they're important. These cells are dead, but they are protecting the inner layers of the skin. Then we talked of the granular layer. We said it is located below the conical layer. After the first layer, the layer that follows, just in the same epidermis, is the granular layer. And we have said it contains living cells that make conical layer. It is from these living cells, when they die, then they make the uppermost layer, the conical layer. So the granular layer is there. When the cells die, it contains living cells, but when they die, they joined the conical layer. Then that layer, in the epidermis, we talked of malpighian layer, and we said it's located below the granular layer, and it is made up of color pigments called the melanin. It's made up of the color pigments called the melanin, and we know what the melanin does. It determines the color of the skin. For how do we know? And if anybody who misses this melanin, this pigment called melanin, then he will now join another race. Your skin will not be the same as other normal human beings. And that is what the problem we have with our friends who have, when they don't have melanin, they have a problem when they are exposed to the sun and so forth. So they need to use other creams to prevent them from the sun's rays and so forth. But we shall see what happens. But if you don't have this pigment called melanin, then your color of the skin will not be, it will be having, your skin will have a problem. Then we are saying another function that Malpighian layer does, it replaces the worn out tissue in the second layer, that is the granular layer. Now, when you go to the second part, the dermis, and we have shown from here downward, this is the dermis layer. We have said this, the skin has two layers. One, we have talked of the dermis, one part is the epidermis, and the second part is the epidermis. Now, when you go to the dermis, we have left the epidermis. Dermis layer of the skin is made up of the following. One, dermis layer, where you can see it's made up of the following one, the blood vessels. The dermis layer has got the arteries, it has the arteries plus the veins. What happens on your skin? The veins are slightly located on the upper part of the skin, but the arteries are located in the inner side of the dermis. We shall see that. So we are saying it's made up of blood vessels, and this includes the capillaries, through which blood and waste products are channeled through. We are saying, what is the role of blood vessels? Blood vessels are there to ensure that waste products are transported, not only waste product, even oxygenated blood and blood that has got nutrients are transported to different parts of the body. That the same place we have the hair follicles. What is the hair follicles? These are deep, they're deep in the skin from which hair grows. Hair grows from somewhere. Hair grows from the hair follicle. So when the hair grows, it grows from that hair follicle, and we know the major purpose of the hair is to control the temperature. Is it cool? Is it hot? It will depend. It will change it will depend the physical positioning of the hair. It will either sleep or it will stand. The muscles will affect that to control the temperature. Then we have the sebaceous gland within the dermis. What does the sebaceous gland do? It is also called the oil glands. It is able to oil the skin, the oil glands. They produce oily substance called sebum, which makes the hair and the skin supple and water to become waterproof. So it produces an oil substance called sebum, an oil substance called sebum. That is the spelling of the word sebum. Then from there, what also the dermis has, it has got what you call the nerve endings. These are sensory organs which help to detect changes in the environment. What changes can be there in the environment? There can be change in the environment, like for instance, heat, if there is heat, pain, or touch. In fact, if you touch somebody's skin, for him to realize that you have touched him or her, it is these senses that are located in the dermis that will be able to take to collect that sense touch, and it will pass that message to the relevant parts of the body, which is the brain, and the brain will interpret that, yes, I have been touched, and so forth. Then there's a fifth organ that is found within the dermis. We call it the subcutaneous fat. Subcutaneous fat is located in the lower part of the dermis, and it helps to keep the body warm. The fat that is present within the subcutaneous fat is very important because it enables the body to be warm. It ensures that the heat that is generated is not lost very fast to the atmosphere. Then from subcutaneous fat, we have the sweat duct. The sweat duct, these are channels, these are tubes, these are channels which the sweat gets out. It leaves the body. So we say it picks the sweat from the sweat gland, the sweat ducts. They pick the sweat from the sweat glands and channels it to the sweat pores. So through sweat pores, then the sweat finds itself to the atmosphere. And sweat pores, and then they come out from the body. And what happens when you are sweating, when the sweat gets itself into the environment, you'll find there will be some kind of cooling effect. when the sweat is evaporating from your body, there will be some kind of cooling effect that happens. Then from the sweat duct, we have the sweat glands. Now, from the sweat glands, they secrete or they produce sweat. They produce sweat, and they are coiled, and they absorb excess water, salt, and lactic acid from the blood. The blood are flowing. Within the skin, we say the blood are flowing. So from the blood that's flowing within the skin, the sweat glands are able to absorb enough water. They can absorb water that is flowing from the surrounding capillaries. They are taken to the skin surface and then brought to the sweat duct. Then from the sweat duct, which evaporates the skin, causing that cooling effect. Now, we want to discuss what are the major functions of the skin. Now, we want to deal with the functions of skin. There are close to 6 functions of the skin. The first functions of the skin is protecting the underlying blood tissues by preventing entry of germs. So one, protecting they protect underlying tissues within the skin. The skin, we can say the skin protects a lot of tissues, whether we talk of the nerves that are within the skin and so forth and so forth. So we're saying protecting the underlying tissues, and these underlying tissues, even the blood is flowing. So we say preventing the underlying body tissues, and also they prevent germs from entering the body, and preventing germs entering the body. So as we had said about the skin, we say it prevents. And we have known that the first layer of the skin is made up of dead cells. Dead cells, they ensure that they are protecting other tissues that are within the body. That is the first function that is important. Then the same skin contains nerve endings. It has nerve endings. And we know what nerve endings mean. The skin is able to detect, to know whether it is hot, it is cold, whether it is tight, and so forth. So these nerve endings that are located within the skin, it enables the skin to perform such important functions. Is it heat? Is it cold? And they will change accordingly. So even the skin itself, it regulates the temperature depending on the fat that is within it. So we are saying the nerve endings are located within it, and then also the same skin, it acts as a storage. It stores fat. It is a storage for fat. Now, the stored fat can act, it can be able to limit the temperature. Instead of the heat getting lost very fast from the body, this fat can be able to retain the heat and so forth. And we can know that under severe circumstances, the same fat can change, can bring energy when it is through chemical reaction. The same fat can change and bring energy to that very living organism fat. Then also, apart from storing fat, we can say the skin also has a responsibility of making vitamin D. And what we are saying about the skin, for the skin to make vitamin D, it has to use sunlight. So depending if you go on the sun, you bask on the sunlight, it has ability of taking that sunlight and manufacturing vitamin D that is required to the body. Apart from that, we are saying, apart from that, we can say it controls the body temperature. When we say it controls the body temperature, we had through the diagram of the skin, we had shown what the hair is, the hair follicle and so forth. Depending on the positioning of this hair, it can be able to trap the heat so that heat is not lost very fast to the atmosphere, or it can lie flatly on the skin so that the heat is lost very fast to the atmosphere. Now, we have seen some of these functions of the skin. We have seen that one function of the skin, we know skin is an excretory organ. It's able, through the skin, we are able to sweat, and we lose this excess waste product from our bodies. We say that's okay. It protects the underlying blood tissues, preventing entry of germs. That's okay. And then the nerve endings are located within the skin. It is sensitive to touch and so forth. We say that's okay. And then we say it stores fat. So sensitive to touch, that's another point. We want to say it has nerve endings. It is sensitive to touch. Now, we have covered what the skin does. We have seen that the skin is able to remove some of the waste product, excess water. We have talked of also excess salt from the body. We have talked of urea and lactic acid that is removed in the form of sweat. Now, from excretory organ called the skin, we can advance ahead to another excretory organ called the kidneys. We know the kidney, but when we look into the human body, we find kidney does not exist in a singular. We have a pair. There are two always. We have two kidneys. So on the kidney, we say this. Kidneys are two in number. They are situated in upper part of the abdomen. So just after the chest. When we are talking about the lungs, towards the end of the lungs, we have the diaphragm. We say it's another layer that plays an important role in the breathing system. After the diaphragm, that is now the upper part of the abdomen, we have two kidneys. One on the left, another one on the right. So we are saying the kidney that is located in the upper part of the abdomen, they are bean-like shape, and they are dark red in color. Kidneys play a very important role. We have mentioned what they can do. Their main functions is to filter. The main functions of the kidney is to filter and remove urine from the blood. So we shall discuss the parts of this kidney. Then, with the help of a simple diagram, we shall see how this kidney looks like. One, we shall start with what you call ureter. Ureter, we shall have a diagram of ureter. Ureter, these are tubes. Each kidney has a tube. Each tube coming from each of these tubes is what we are referring as ureter. So we are saying ureter are tubes that carry urine away from the kidneys. Ureters are tubes that carry urine away from the kidney to the urinal bladder. Maybe we can have a simple diagram so that it will assist us to explain a kidney, the way it looks like, the ureter, the urethra, the renal bladder, and so forth. We can have a simple structure of So what we are having, this is a structure, this is one of the kidney, and this is another kidney. Then this is what we call urinal bladder. So we can see that when we are talking about when we talk about the urethra, this is the urethra, and these two tubes are the ones now we are talking about, the ureter. Of course, we have some so above here we have our diaphragm. Now, what we have seen, this is the left kidney and this is the right kidney. Now, we were talking about ureter. When we're talking about ureter, we are talking about these two channels, these two tubes. What does this ureter do? We have said that there are two tubes that carry urine away from the kidney to the urinal bladder. This is the urinal bladder. And when they carry urine to the urinal bladder is a temporary storage place for urine before it is let out through the urethra there. Then from the ureter, we can go to urinal bladder. Now, from the urinal bladder, this is it. What does it do? We are saying it acts as a temporary storage or bag of urine. When the urinal bladder is full, it contracts and urine is passed through the urethra. When it contracts, urine is passed through the urethra. Then from the urinal bladder, we have the urethra. What does the urethra do? We are saying this. It's a tube that carries urine to outside through the penis, or in males, and in females, it opens on the upper part of the vagina. And we have what we call the contractile muscles that will control the opening and closing of the urethra. Now, when we talk of removal of the urine, what happens for the removal of urine? Blood passes through the kidney, which filters the excess salt, water, urea, and poisonous substances like drugs. If there are drugs that are not sitting in the body, then they will be removed by this kidney. Because if they remain so, they are harmful to the body if they continue accumulating. So this is what happens. So the kidney is well equipped in such a way that it will be able to remove these things. And when they are removed, they will find themselves in the ureter. From the ureter, they will find themselves in the renal bladder. When the renal bladder contracts, then they will find themselves out. So this is a symbol diagram trying to show the kidney, the ureters, the renal bladder, and urethra. That diagram shows that. Now, from the kidney, we can advance ahead to the third excretory organ, and we say that excretory organ is called the lungs. And with the lungs, when we were covering about the breathing system, we talked about the breathing system, and lungs, we covered part of it. We drew how the lungs work and so forth when we are dealing with the breathing system. But now, when we are dealing here with the lungs as excretory system, we are interested to see how the lungs ensured that excess water is left out as a water vapor. From the air we breathe out. The air we breathe out, you can get some droplets of water within it and moisture, and that moisture is what we can refer as water vapor. But what we know is the percentage of carbon dioxide is higher. So the lungs assist. When it gets, the lung is able to get carbon dioxide from the blood, then it releases it to bronchioles, from bronchioles to bronchus, and then from the bronchus to the trachea. Then it will find itself to the nasal cavity, and later on to the nose, and it will be out. So what about the lungs? So we are saying a human being has a pair of lungs. We have two lungs. We have a pair of lungs. The main excretory organ that we get from the lungs is the carbon dioxide gas. The air we breathe in also contains, the air we breathe out also contains moisture, and this moisture is what we are referring as to water vapor. The carbon dioxide diffuses from the capillaries. We are saying that the lungs is well equipped with the blood capillaries. Those who can remember, we had called those tin air sacs that are located within the lungs. So there is enough blood capillaries, and they will diffuse out. The carbon dioxide will be able to diffuse out, and then the lungs will breathe out such a carbon dioxide. So we are saying capillaries, and we are breathed out through the use of via the bronchus, and then the bronchi, and then lastly to the trachea. We are saying the air breathed in through the nose, the air we breathe in through the nose is warmed up. What the nose does, it is able to warm up the air that we breathe in through the nose, and it is cleaned because we had said the nose itself contains some air that is able to trap the particles, whether these particles are from sandy particles or dust particles, and even some mucus are able to trap this so that the air we breathe in is clean. That particles are trapped by the mucus and the air. Air proceeds to air sacs, and via the trachea and the bronchioles and the bronchioles, oxygen is picked. When the oxygen is picked, it's picked by another pigment called hemoglobin in the blood capillaries through the air sacs that we're calling the alveoli. So we are seeing that the blood that is present within the lungs, it contains a pigment called hemoglobin, and this hemoglobin is able to pick the oxygen that has been brought in by the bronchioles. So it's able to pick that oxygen. Now, when oxygen picks this, when hemoglobin picks this air, oxygen from the alveoli or through the small blood capillaries, that oxygen now becomes oxygenated blood. It becomes hemoglobin. It's transported in that form. And we have red blood cells that are well adapted to transport oxygen. They are shaped, they are tiny, but there are millions of them. They are able to transport this oxygen to different areas, to the heart and so forth. Now, this is what happens on the lungs. We are not going to draw this diagram because we had drawn it before when we were dealing with the breathing system, when the way how we breathe and so forth. We were able to draw lungs. We have a pair of lungs. We had explained that from the lungs we have the diaphragm. What the diaphragm does, it flattens. When it acquires the dome shaped, then the lungs constrict, they're able, you breathe out. When it flattens, you breathe in and so forth. We had explained what happens from the trachea to the lungs and so forth and so forth. So we are not going to draw again the lungs, but what we want to mention about the lungs is able to bring a waste product called carbon dioxide, and there's also water vapor, because the air that we breathe out, it is in a moist form. It has some water in it. So we can say the major byproduct of lungs is carbon dioxide, and that is what they're mentioning. Now, from our excretory system, we have covered 3 excretory organs. We have seen the skin playing a major role as excretory organs. We have seen the waste products that are produced from the skin. What the skin assists when it's ingesting, it's letting out this waste product. From the skin, we had seen the kidney. We have seen the role the kidney plays, that it enables excess water is removed and the excess salt is removed, and even urea from the kidney. It plays that important role. Then lastly, we have come to lungs. On the lungs, we have seen that lungs is majorly a byproduct of lungs. It ensures that it is able to remove carbon dioxide from the body. Water vapor, yes, it comes in, but that is not the major. The major byproduct from the lungs is carbon dioxide. So the three organs are the major excretory organs. So from the excretory system, we want to advance to another system. This system, we call it reproductive system. Now, when we are dealing with reproductive system, maybe it's important first we define what is reproduction. What is reproduction? Then we shall see how the many organs that are involved in the reproductive system. So reproduction can be defined as giving rise to young ones of the same kind. It can be defined as reproduction is giving rise to young ones that are of the same kind. So we expect through reproduction, the parent should be able to give rise to a young one that is similar to it. So we are saying reproduction is giving rise to young ones of the same kind, not different kind. So we don't expect maybe a human being to give rise maybe to an animal like a cat, a dog. No, that one will not happen. So it has to be of the same kind. It is also a process by which living things produce new individuals. We can say also it is a process. We are not limiting reproduction to human beings alone, no, to all living things. It is also a process by which living things, all living things, without caring whether these living things are animals, without caring whether these living things are animals. So it is the process by which all living things produce new individuals. Produce new individuals. If trees are giving rise to other trees, small offspring, then we say that is then reproduction. So we are saying reproduction is a process by which living things produce new individuals of same kind, not of different kind, but of similar kind. So when that one happens, we say, yes, it is reproduction. Now, when we are talking about reproduction in human beings, we say reproduction in human beings begins with sexual intercourse. So you've said reproduction in human beings begins with sexual intercourse. Then we shall study what happens. Parts of a reproductive system, we want just to see parts of this reproductive system, then we shall see their functions and so forth. Parts of reproductive system. The human reproductive system is made up of a male and female parts. So we're saying human reproductive system is made up of male and female parts. Maybe we can start with female. We can start with parts of female reproductive system, then we shall end part of male reproductive system. Then we shall see the functions and so forth. So parts of female reproductive system. reproductive, parts of female reproductive system. When we have the vagina, then 2, we have the cervix, then 3, we have the uterus. We also call it the womb, the uterus, and then 4. 4, we have the fallopian tube. The fallopian tube, we also call it oviduct. We shall see what the 2 channels do. And then 5, we have the ovary. And we shall study that normally 2 ovaries. We can have a simple structure to illustrate these parts. We do it this way. First. Can have such a structure like so. So we are having this one is a simple structure that will be able to explain now what we have. Then we can have slight information. This one is the ovary. From the ovary, we have the oviduct. Oviduct is what we are calling the fallopian tubes. Then in between here, we have the uterus. Then from the uterus, right here, we have the cervix. Yes. We have the cervix, the vagina, and then now, what we are having here is, this is what we term as a female reproductive system. So when we talk of the oviduct, it is these tubes. These are the ovaries and so forth. So we can now discuss the functions of each part, and we shall understand functions and parts of a female reproductive system. One, when we talk about the vagina, this one receives the sperms from the penis during sexual intercourse. It is the passage. It is the passage of the baby during birth, hence sometimes called the birth canal. We are talking about that one, it's the birth canal. Then we can go to 2 here, that is the cervix. What is the function of the cervix? We are saying it is the muscular neck between the vagina and the uterus. It provides a passage for the sperm, passage to the sperm and the baby, maybe during birth, and it also holds the embryo of the uterus. Then when we can go to number 3, we can discuss about the uterus. This part, the uterus. What is the functions of uterus? We are saying it provides a room for the embryo to develop. So the embryo develops within the uterus here. It provides a room for the embryo to develop till birth, the young embryo. Then the muscular walls of the uterus contract to force the baby out through the cervix. So during birth, these muscles will contract and it will force the baby out. These muscles will contract. These are muscles. It will contract and force the baby out. So we are saying, then from the uterus, we can go to the oviduct or the fallopian tubes. We are talking about these tubes. There are 2 oviduct or 2 fallopian tubes. On the fallopian tubes, we are saying these are tubes connecting each ovary to the uterus. They allow the passage of the sperm from the uterus to fertilize the ovum. When we talk about the egg that is released from here, it's called also the ovum. So we are saying uterus to the fertilize the ovum provides room for fertilization to take place. Also within the fallopian tubes or oviduct, that channel, it can also provide room for fertilization to take place. If there is a sperm that has gone towards that end, it can do what we call fertilization. Then we are saying it is also, at the same time, it is a passage for the rib or mature ovum that travels from ovary to uterus during a process called ovulation. So during a process called ovulations, the ovaries, from the ovaries we talk of the ovum. The ovum that are mature, they will be able to travel from here, they come all along here during that process called ovulation. And we are saying each ovary within 28 days is capable of producing an ovum after a period of 28 days, and they do it interchangeably. They do it interchangeably. Then we have studied, these are some of the parts of female reproductive system. We can go to a male reproductive system. We see the parts and their functions. So parts of male reproductive system. Now, parts of male reproductive system, what are these parts? The first part, we have the testes. We shall see testes in a simple diagram. Then from testes, we have to scrotum. We shall see it on the diagram. Then we have the epidermis. There is epidermis. We shall see also the epidermis in our diagram. Then the fourth part that we shall see is the first difference or the sperm duct. We call it the first difference. That's another name for the sperm duct. Then from the sperm duct, we have the urethra. The fifth, we have urethra. Then the sixth part that we have the glands. Then from the glands, we have the penis. So these are parts of male reproductive system. Some are external, others are internal. We shall have a simple diagram trying to show the following. Only the part of the kidney. We know the kidney has some. The kidney has some tubes that they connect to the urinal bladder. We are interested with the urinal bladder because it plays an important role. But what we want to know from the urinal bladder, because they're connected, we can have this organ. Maybe we have our kidneys. Then from the kidney, we can have this organ. Yes, we have that organ. Then there are two ducts that will come from here. Now, when we are talking about the testes, that is the testes. These two are the glands. These are the sperm duct. That is the sperm duct, yes, epidermis. Then this one is urethra. We have the penis. Of course, if we have to add some organ, this one will be the kidney. The kidneys. So we are having a simple structure of a male reproductive system, and we shall mention a bit the functions of these parts. Then we can say functions of the parts of a male reproductive system. When we talk about the testes, what these testes, they are of two. They are two sex glands whose main functions is to produce sperms. The sperms are stored in a coiled tube called epidermis. This is the coiled tube called epidermis, and this is the testes we are talking about. When we talk of the scrotum, this is the from here. This is the scrotum. Had we indicated it? That's scrotum. This scrotum, this another scrotum. From the scrotum, this is the sac-like skin that covers the testes to offer protections. That one, those are external, they can be seen. It is also regulates the temperature around the testes for the production of sperm. So this is the scrotum. It protects the testes that is within for production of sperm. So it ensures that a correct temperature is available for production of sperm. That is the work of the scrotum. And then we go to the sperm duct. It is also called the vas deferens, the sperm duct, this one, where the sperms can travel through the sperm duct, also called the vas deferens. It's called also vas deferens. It is a tube that allows a passage of sperms from the epidermis to the urethra. Then when you go to the glands, the two, I've shown the two glands, what they do, the two glands. Their main function is to produce fluid, which combines with the sperm to swim. A mixture of sperm and this fluid is called semen. So what do these glands? They produce a fluid, and that fluid combines with the sperm from sperm duct. Then when they combine together the sperm duct, that fluid now becomes semen. It's a combination of fluid together with the sperm to form semen. The fluid provides nourishment for the sperm. Then we can go to urethra. I had indicated urethra is there. Now, what about the urethra? We are saying it is a tube inside the penis that lets out the sperm and urine. This tube that we are seeing, it lets out urine and sperm. Then our number 7, we talked of the penis, and we said the penis is a muscular organ that deposits the sperm into the vagina. So we have covered, up to now, we have covered a female reproductive system. We have also covered, in a way, a male reproductive system. Now, in our next lesson, we are going to talk about circulatory system. And when we shall be talking about the circulatory system, the important organs in the circulatory system are 1, the veins, 2, the arteries, and 3, the heart. That's the end of the lesson today. Thank you.